Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Mikhail Peters. This is one of these cursed days where I just did a whole video in Russian and it wasn't even 10 minutes long and it didn't save on this stupid, what am I using, photo booth. I don't know. My work computer right now is currently rebooting, which it's not supposed to do for more than an hour and a half, which it's now been 2 hours, and I'm really confused about how it's taking so long and if it's even going to finish doing that. So that's kind of scary. But anyway, I'm staying in a hotel. We're here in Charlotte for a work trip. That's really cool, but not for long because this thing is literally only a couple of days. So today I'm going to share a pretty unpopular opinion, which is that I actually enjoy my corporate job a lot. And the reason I want to do this is because I feel like corporate America gets a bad rep. And to be honest, out of a lot of the situations I've been in my life, I don't think that this is by far not the worst one. Yeah. Now I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to re-record the Russian video because, that's the side of my channel that, really likes me. I don't know how else to put it. That is so into the essence of Mikaela. Whatever. I appreciate, the Finnish side a lot, and I really thought about making another Finnish-oriented video, and I did want to talk about my job in Finland, and maybe that will be a nice follow-up video to this because I'm going to talk about the things I really like about this job. And then next I do eventually want to make a video about how did I get that job in Finland and what the reality of having that job was actually like and how that experience has probably contributed towards my apprehension in terms of getting another Finnish job in Finland. So I'm going to do the thing where I keep cutting these off really randomly so that God forbid one of them doesn't save. It's not like this whole big nightmare trying to rehash it. Okay, so, I get this question a lot where it's like, oh, if you used to work at NASA, why did you leave and why don't you still work there? That's honestly a great question, and it makes a lot of sense, and the thing that I tell people is I just did not like my job at NASA. And it was funny because on the way back to the hotel, I was just talking to another girl who I work with, and we were talking about jobs we've had that we don't like, and I'm just like, to me there's no point in searching for a job if you like your job. I make this statement a lot, and she's like, yeah, when I worked at Prudential I really didn't like it. And I was like, why? She's like, I just had a bad manager. And I was like, why? And then she's like, because if I had to go pick up my son from school, it was this whole big deal. And so micromanaging is obviously very unattractive, and as my manager has said, people don't really quit jobs, they quit managers, and I agree with that. And I'd say for the most part, I really like my team. They don't really cause me a lot of anxiety. Very occasionally there will be some sort of micromanaging situation because there's actually an important deadline, but other than that, it's not something I deal with regularly. It is, however, something I dealt with when I was working at NASA, working in procurement. I would say that was definitely a thing. Now, part of it that I try to understand is it because you're an intern and they're just trying to be on top of you because they're trying to make sure that you're, getting the full intern experience. I think the other thing with being an intern, it was kind of actually very difficult to maintain this balance between being involved in the intern activities, which are categorically fun, and then being involved in the learning process and, making sure you're doing all of that. So I think my first internship at NASA, because you do 3 of them, they're called tours. I've heard the military refers to them as this too. Makes sense, government, military. They're kind of friends, they do similar things. So essentially, some of the kids, some of these kids would do 8 tours. It's do you ever want to graduate and get a real job? Probably not, which I don't blame them because I was kind of the same way. But, they would be at all the intern events, and I was I didn't go to all of them. So my time in procurement, I'd be oh, can I go to it? And then, my manager person essentially would be fine. But then it turned out later it wasn't fine, and then it turned into this whole big dramatic meeting with the manager and the manager's manager and the manager's manager's manager, and it was just kind of crazy. And I was like, why didn't we just have this clear, direct communication? So I guess very honestly, even now, with my friends who work at NASA, I know a lot of them have had to go back to the office, which wasn't a thing for a while, so that's cool. And, I know part of that is an administrative decision because we do have to keep in mind that the way the U.S. government works and working for the U.S. government is you do answer to the U.S. president, so whatever he says is kind of what you need to do. So, hey, everybody has to go back in the office, yes, they indeed do. Now, you don't really have those restrictions, I'm going to say, or the word we really like to use here is bureaucracy, when you're dealing with a corporation. So corporations can do more of the move fast and break things kind of delivery of working. And it's just ironic that, this is my first full-time job, so maybe it's not fair and I don't have enough to compare it to, but I truly feel like I have more time and balance working this job than I did, for instance, when I was going into an office at NASA. Granted, I personally have a very hard time going into an office. It makes me exhausted. Like, I feel like I have to dress up and put on makeup and like look presentable to go into the office, kind of like I look right now. I don't feel that way if I'm sitting at home. That's why half my YouTube videos, I don't look like this. So it's just a very different concept. I know a lot of people are like, I'm going to make YouTube videos, I have to put on makeup and stuff. I'm like, no, I don't feel that way. I just look however I look. And right now I happen to look like this because I was just in public the whole day. So it's just, like, I like my corporate job. I like my job. I don't think it's too hard. I don't think it's too stressful. I like getting paid. Could I be getting paid more? Yeah, but could my job also be a lot harder? Yeah. So I really don't mind because I feel like I have decent work-life balance, and, it could be worse. Like, I guess could it be better? It could, maybe, but like, I haven't been in a situation that has been better than the one I'm currently in. So that's what I'm trying to say is, like, I'm in absolutely no rush to leave this position. And I think that is once again, one of the hardest things that, like, I do try to get across on this channel is, as much as I have this strong affinity for Finland and love living there, it's just that, sometimes it's really scary to leave something like a job that you spend a lot of time doing, that you don't mind doing, that you actually, in some ways, actually enjoy and like enough. And risking that, it's like a leap of faith to find something that you think that you're going to like better or hope you'll like better. And it's just, knowing that the job market in Finland is not only difficult to find a job in, but, would be difficult to find a job that you like, and already having a job you like, it's a huge risk. So I feel like part of, what I'm trying to do at this point is just, building up enough financial reserves, getting the housing situation straightened out, and, getting to a point where I can be more risk-taking, but, currently, which is, like, kind of ironic, because people are always like, oh, the younger you are, your risk profile, especially with investing, should be higher, and that's really not how I feel, like, right now, because, I'm still more in a, as one friend pointed out, a paycheck-to-paycheck situation, right? Like, I'm not really, like, you should not do this, nobody should do this, but, like, you're supposed to have, like, 3 to 6 months of expenses saved up. God forbid you get fired. Like, I'm not really in that situation. I should be, but I'm not, which is part of why I'm, like, very excited to stop traveling, because traveling really does not help you be in that situation. And it's just, like, those things, like, the whole, like, financial, monetary, whatever, survival aspect for me at this point is much more important than like taking a risk just to do something that I want to do. Like, I feel like I already spent my early 20s doing some stupid things in terms of just, spending more time getting educated instead of spending more time working or figuring out how to invest my money. That was something I was always like, I'll worry about later, and I am worrying about it now. So there is that. So I don't know. It's just like, what I'm trying to get at is, my experience has been a lot better. Like, this job has given me a lot of flexibility. It's like I have been able to work and travel with this job again. I'm not sure I highly recommend it because of what I just stated, but just like having the option, right? Like, people a lot of times like to have the choice and like to have the option, regardless of whether they're actually utilizing the option or not. So, it's kind of the hard thing. And it's like, again, it's an unpopular opinion that the best job I've ever had has been in corporate America, but and I used to, like, go around saying government for life. Like, I was super, like, wanting to work for the government because I felt like I had great benefits and work-life balance and all that. But I've found that working for a corporation has been much more thoroughly enjoyable than my experience working for the government. And again, I was never full-time at NASA. I was just an intern. I don't know what my experience as not an intern would have been, so it's also hard to say. But I also knew that I didn't want to live in Texas, and even though those houses are nice, dude, but with the weather, even right now, I'm in North Carolina and it's too hot. And it's like May, and it's only going to get worse. So yeah, there's that. But I don't know. So again, unpopular opinion, and, this is my experience, and everybody's experience is legitimate and valid, but, I just put that out there because I feel like, people have different preconceived notions, and it's sort of like, what is it, fantasy versus reality, or like concept versus reality, whatever the versus reality thing. Like, the reality is the situation is actually pretty good. But, what people may think about the situation is, like, tends to verge on disdainful. And it's just really not that way. So, I don't know. Okay, but yeah, I want to make another video talking about my job in Finland because I think that could be interesting and more relevant, but this is just to, put something out for today. So hopefully it's at least somewhat interesting. All right, well, thanks for listening, and until next time, bye.